Hey, and good evening, everybody. You're not seeing a replay. You are seeing Look Around the Confederation. Moose is actually on the loose somewhere. It's spring break for him or something like that. I don't know. Something that poor broke college students get to do. I know he was up at headquarters the other day. I think tonight's his camp meeting, so he and Forrest have driven back from Columbia and are in at their normal camp meeting. So he asked me to fill in and host for him. So before we get started, like on all shows, the views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are not necessarily those of the SCV, its GEC, nor any division, brigades, camps, or other subsidiaries. Strictly those of us who are expressing them. And I know I'm saying those like I've got somebody with me, and I do. And if you looked this past evening and saw the promotional stuff that we have Army of Northern Virginia Councilman candidate for AOT Commander, right, Kenny?
That is it.
AOT Commander candidate Kenny Ramsey here tonight, talking about what he is planning on doing for the ANV, why he's running for office, and everything like that. Got about 7 questions for him. These are going to be questions that are different than the ones Chuck McMichael answered on his interview. So a little bit different questions. And also, we've got 7 of those instead of the 10 that I think Moose asked Chuck Mack. So what we'll do is, especially if you are from the ANV, comment in your questions and stuff like that. And we will bring those up as well. But before we get kicked off, for those people that don't know you, Kenny, how about you introduce yourself and what you are running for and everything like that?
Well, as you said, my name is Kenny Ramsey. I am currently the Army of Northern Virginia Councilman, and I'm running for Army of Northern Virginia Commander. Other than that, my current SCV involvement is I'm the Lieutenant Commander in the North Carolina Division. I am the current and charter commander of the Captain David Williams Holly Shelter Volunteers Camp 2267 over in Pender County, North Carolina. I'm married, got 5 kids, 6 grandkids. On the other personal level, I spent 34 years in law enforcement, starting out as a deputy right here in my home county of Pender in 1976. Then I retired from the California Highway Patrol in 2010. Mixed in during some of the same time, I had 27 years in the U.S. Navy Reserve. I'm a combat veteran. I served in Desert Storm, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And immediately after 9/11, I was called up, served 2 tours back to back, assigned to NCIS in the Middle East Field Office. And I retired in 2012 after going on active duty for 2 more years as the Fleet Chief Master at Arms on the Admiral staff at U.S. 4th Fleet. A little more background, I guess. In 24 years and a few months that I've been in the SCV, I have only missed 1 national reunion. And believe it or not, while I was on active duty military, I would even take leave to come back and go to a reunion. The one I missed, I was right after we went into Iraq, so I couldn't get back. I even made the special reunion in 2005 over in Concord. Also, wherever I was at, California, here, wherever, I have never missed a division meeting or an executive council meeting other than when I was deployed overseas. I've been to many Stephen Dill Lees, and I've been to quite a few of the National Memorial Services. I have basically lived and breathed SCV since I joined. Especially from California, I would travel all over the country to do these events. And I have a very supportive wife that puts up with that and still does. She's quite frequently with me at the reunions. I don't know. I even made it a point for years. I had attended the national GEC meetings just to make sure I knew what was going on. Usually it was the ones before and after the reunions. But once I retired, several times I drove out to Tennessee just to sit in on a meeting. And I never really intended to run for a national office for a long time, but I just wanted to be sure I knew what was going on. I guess I can give some of my past stuff that I've done. I've been a life member for almost 25 years. I also was the charter member of the Albert Sidney Johnston Camp 2048 out in California. I was the California Division Commander for 2 terms. I am the past commander of the North Carolina Southeast Brigade for 1 term. I served as the National Inspector in Chief for 1 term. I was aide-de-camp under Commander McClooney, and I was on the National Heritage Defense Committee 1 term. So I've been around, been living it, breathing it. I retired in 2012, and since then, that's just about all I do is SCV stuff and play with the grandkids. So I guess that catches everybody up on a little bit about me.
Well, I know in pre-show, I said that I read you the questions, everything, just so you could have a chance to think on them. But I'm actually going to jump off script for a second. It wouldn't be a show with me if I wasn't going to jump off script. And what I want to ask is, so being a division commander, especially in the ATM, and now running in the ANV, how has that prepared you for the role that you currently are in and for the role that you're running for?
Well, it did help a lot. You have the leadership, you have the structure in your division, however it's set up. I know different divisions are slightly different. In my case, it did assist too in the fact that I was attending GEC meetings to see what was going on, to learn it. And even with that, when I became the councilman, first couple of meetings is still a learning curve. You got to get in the groove, find out all the little details of what you are supposed to be doing, the right way to do them. But definitely being division commander did help to lead into that. And as a councilman, you are the same, as far as GEC meetings and stuff, you are the same level with all the other members. So I've basically done the same thing at the GEC for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, and being especially California being one of our smaller divisions, um that definitely getting that, growing it, and as well as the trials that come from being out on the left coast. My views, my opinions, would definitely be something that proves that you've been in the field of battles. Pardon the expression. Not only your veteran status, but and your police status, but as far as on the SCV fronts, that's really cool and something that I really admire about you personally. Um, so really quickly, jumping into the questions, what has inspired you to pursue the role of commander for the SCV's Army of Northern Virginia?
Well, a lot of that was personal, I'll say that. I have enjoyed my time as councilman. I know that we've done a lot of good things since I've been in, and we have projects going on that I would like to see finished. One thing is the museum. We're working on getting it paid for, and I'd like to be there. It's not going to be long, but I'd like to be there when it is paid for. And that is definitely in the works. I looked at the fact I could run again right now, could be running for councilman again, re-election. But these terms are staggered between councilman and commander. And next time if I decide to go commander, I'd be running against an incumbent. So I decided to go ahead and step up this time, run for commander, and then maybe if I could do it, run for a second term, and then I would be done. I will never seek a higher rank than that. And if I did win this time, I will be almost 71. So I'll be 75 if I even get the second term. So I'll be ready to back down. I won't back out of the SCV. I'll still be active, but I won't be holding a leadership position.
Yeah. I'm swapping between the brands and the comments. I usually have Moose doing that for me. Um, but so I am missing him tonight. So as Army Commander and even as Councilman, a lot of things happen within the organization, being camps, and we need when we are according to our standing orders, we are a fraternal organization. So how do you plan to foster a sense of camaraderie and unity amongst our members, considering the diversity of backgrounds and perspectives that this organization has?
Well, that can be difficult in the SCV. We're Southerners, and even back during the war, they were scrapping back and forth all the time. But be somewhat like Jeff Davis, I would try my best to mediate. You can't please everybody, but one of my things, work out some progress between camps. Even now, I see issues going on with camps, and I get involved. I'm the type that will go out and talk to everybody and try to work it out. And another one of my things is, depending on, this might be a bad thing, I don't know, to some people, depending on which division and everything, the Metcalf is looked at as good. Some places looked at as bad. I want to foster a friendship, a working relationship with everybody, including the Metcalf. They are a subordinate associated with the SCV, and everybody in there is an SCV member. So that is one of my things. Is I have been out. I am a member of the Metcalf, not very active, but I am a member, and I go to their meetings and talk SCV to keep them filled in on SCV stuff. So I'm already working that angle, trying to pull everyone together. So, and answer questions. A lot of people have the wrong perception of Metcalf, and a lot of Metcalf guys kind of have a wrong perception of some SCV camps. But I'm working to foster friendship between all of them, and I think I'm making some progress on that.
Well, good. Trying to get back, swapping back and forth. So it takes me a second to get everything in this slow computer of mine. So we kind of talked about this, and you kind of mentioned it, but there are times when we have very differing um, ideas and opinions on how to do things, and conflict naturally does rise amongst our membership. So how would you handle those situations where conflicts and different opinions amongst our membership, at least about the direction of our organization and the initiatives that we're doing? Some people don't support one project and they do support another one. How would you handle that if somebody comes up to you wanting to, make an issue out of something like that?
I would hear them. I would talk to them. Maybe they got a good idea. I don't know, but quite frequently, I have already encountered people come in. They don't like something, but they don't fully understand it. And sometimes those people have not been to a big meeting, haven't been to a division meeting or a national meeting or a national reunion. And I always tell them, if you've got ideas, get involved. Put your ideas out there. Get your camp involved. Pass it up your division. It might be a good idea, but if they don't like something, it's kind of like if you don't like your senator, if you didn't vote, it's none of your, doesn't matter. So I would kind of mediate. I would listen to them, and I would tell them how to get involved. It might be a good idea, but one person can't change it.
Right. Um, and that's a very good answer. We need a lot more mediators in this organization than anything else. So really quickly, and take it. Well, not say really quickly, but discuss your vision for the growth and expansion of the Army Northern Virginia, both in the terms of actual membership numbers, but as well as, and that's something that Moose and I are big on here, is community outreach.
Okay. Well, as far as growth, that's something that the Army can do, is promote and talk and promote it within the divisions down the chain. But it is ultimately up to the divisions and to the camps. But we do try. I have many meetings, gone to different divisions and places, and talked about my ideas, what we do, and what my camp does. You need to be out in the public. We're a member of the local Chamber of Commerce. I have talked to our town board and our county commissioners. We partner up on a lot of things with the local American Legion group. We get our name out there. Fortunately, we have a local newspaper that will print some of our advertisements and stuff with no problem. But you do need to get out advertising. And as far as membership, this organization has always had some membership problems as far as growing. We need to promote it like you were doing to the younger folks. I love this, the way you guys are doing it here with the media. But you've also, some people have heard me say it at many meetings, everybody's got kids, grandkids, son-in-law, all that. Talk it up. Get them to be members. I've got 4 sons. They're all members. I got a son-in-law. He's a member. I got a grandson that's a member. So that way, now, everybody's got the family, same background. It's not even any extra trouble to get the background check. But overall, it's going to be getting out, being in the public, no matter what it is. You can't just have your little closed meeting and that's it. You can't hide. I'm not saying any camps do that, but the more open you are, I advertise my meetings. I invite anybody. I've had 2 black county commissioners come and speak at my meetings. Things like that, get the word out and get friendship going. So I guess that answers it.
Yeah, it does. It answers it absolutely perfectly. Really quickly, we have had some about 3 questions come in that I'm going to bring up really quickly before we get to our prepped questions. So John from Tennessee, even though he's not in your Army, is asking, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the ANV, and how do you plan to meet them?
Well, the challenges in the ANV are the same ones that meet the entire Confederation here. They're the same problem. It's membership and misguided hatred of anything Southern. How to meet them is to just continue to keep the upper hand. We can't win all the battles. You can't fight all the battles. You have to pick your battles. We are winning some. We are maintaining, as far as our thing, we've got probably one of the best, in my opinion, Confederate museum there is now, and nothing will be touching that. But as far as the challenges, it's just membership and making sure to get the word out and grow. So that's the best I can answer that one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned at the beginning of your answer, you said, it's the same problems the ANV that, is the rest of the Confederation. And, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Not saying that any of our links in the SCV are weak by any means, but, the same problems that hit the ANV are hitting the ATM and hitting the AOT at the same time. So Victor Smith from Florida asks, especially because, Florida and Georgia is right there on the border of Carolina. Tennessee shares a border with North Carolina, Kentucky with Virginia, one of the Carolinas, I believe, and West Virginia. Don't completely quote me in my but our armies touch up pretty much. We share borders. So if elected as Army Commander, what do you plan to do to strengthen the bonds between the armies?
Well, obviously, the Army commanders and councilmen all meet up several times a year and coordinate things at the GEC level and share ideas and stuff. And it's up to each commander to pass it down to his army. But if I'm elected as commander, currently I travel up and down the ANV. I've been to various division reunions several times each place. But I've been out of the ANV many times to like down to Stone Mountain or various places, Beauvoir, different places. But I would do more traveling into the others. As far as bonds between armies, I have an obvious connection between the ATM because I was the Army Council. The division commander out in California, and I still have a lot of friends there. And haven't been able to get out there much, but I will in the future. And that's one of my things. As I am for the last 12 years, I've been fully retired. I don't have anything else to do but work SCV issues and SCV programs. So I can travel, and I like to travel.
Oh, good. And let me really, John, I apologize that I said you're from Tennessee. John's actually from Maryland. So, John, I apologize. I got you confused with Al. Kind of got cross-eyed reading the comments.
John's from Maryland?
No, Al is from Tennessee. John's from Maryland.
Okay. Well, I will apologize to him because I had plans to go to the Maryland Division reunion, and unfortunately, it is the same day as Virginia, and I had already booked up there.
Already committed, yeah. Well, Sean, the Florida man, who has his show on Tuesday nights, check him out. Look Around Southwest Florida. He asked, what kind of ideas do you have on bringing your Army into the 21st century?
Well, we are already in the 21st century. As example right here, what we're doing right now. We will get more onto social media and as much as we can onto other types of media advertising as much as they will let us. We've got to win the battle of hatred for anything Southern. And that's got to start at the local. Like we have a good rapport with our newspaper, but not so much with the TV stations. But that can change if we keep working at it. Other than technology and social media, that's the biggest part of it, I would say.
Well, and that kind of answers my next question, which is, how do you plan on engaging younger generations in the preservation of Confederate history and heritage and ensuring its relevance and resonance for future members?
Well, and on that, it's been a little while since I was asked, but I have gone out in uniform to a couple of the local elementary schools and during their history classes and given a talk on it. And I've not been held back. They give me questions about slavery and everything else, and I tell them it happened. And then I'll tell them the truth about how it happened, why, and the war was not about that. And I will remind them it was legal everywhere, not just in the South. But right now, again, if we can get our own kids involved, get them fired up, they've got friends that could possibly come on in. And we're trying to do that right now. My son, my youngest is 20, and he's been bringing a college friend over. And we've been talking. I think I'm on the verge on that one. So it's kind of up to the individuals in the camp. But at the Army level, if we put the word out and recommend various things, that could help do that.
All right. So the next one, really quickly is kind of an easy one. And it's one that I think is very, very important for anybody running for office. In 1906, General S.D. Lee gave the Sons of Confederate Veterans our charge, which is our mission statement. Kenny, what does the charge mean to you?
Everything. As far as the SCV, that is the number one thing that we have to live by. And to me, I take it personal as how I should treat everything Southern. there is nothing more important than that. We have our bylaws and constitution, but the number one thing we need to protect and honor and go by is the charge. I have read the charge, but I've also read the entire speech he gave to us in 1906, and I follow a lot more than just the charge. So it is very important.
All right, and then looking ahead, let's say that you win. What do you envision as your primary goals and priorities for the ANV under your leadership?
Well, for one, communications between, we get ours from the GEC. We are supposed to disseminate it out to the divisions. I hope to improve the communications down, and then possibly even further down, but we do have an Army Facebook page and a website, but they're not real active. I hope to really change those around and stay on top of that, and advertise out. Look at that for any information and send messages out directly to the various division commanders in the Army and ask them to pass it on down. Also, I'm not one stickler on chain of command. Any member in the Army that has a question that they deem important enough, I always put my contact info out everywhere. It's on the national website. It's on my division website. It's on my card. It's on any paperwork I put out. And I don't mind anybody calling me to ask a question or need a favor, anything. So that type of communication is what I'm after all the way around.
Okay, so that I think that includes my list. I think that's about 10 questions. Throwing it out there to the chat again to throw some more questions out. Kenny, anything specific you want to talk about while we're waiting on them to ask some questions of you?
Well, we've covered a lot of it, and as you've seen from my opening thing there, over the years, I have basically lived SCV. Initially, as I said, I was a policeman in North Carolina. And I was not in the SCV back then. I lived it, I breathed it, everything Southern. My camp is named after the unit that was formed up right here by where I live now, where the families always lived. I've got 15 direct and collateral ancestors in that camp, and everybody around here does. The last mayor of the city here, his great grandfather was killed in that unit at Sharpsburg. So I always lived it. I always knew Southern, and around here, that was just the way it was. If I wanted to learn family history, I walked a couple of 100 yards back and went to the family cemetery, and there were a dozen Confederate soldiers back there in my family. But once I got out to California, I'll even expound on that. I was working here in North Carolina. I was a deputy sheriff for quite a few years, worked my way up to detective sergeant. Got the opportunity to become a police chief in the little town of Atkinson, North Carolina. I was also, as mentioned, a reservist. And if you know naval reservists, every year you got to do at least one 2-week session. On one of my 2-week sessions down in New Orleans, working shore patrol for Mardi Gras. Another nice reservist was there from California, and I met the love of my life. 3 months after that meeting, I moved to California and we got married. It was a toss-up. I was a police chief. She worked for the California Highway Patrol. We decided since the patrol paid 2.5 times what I made as a police chief, I would go that way. Once I got to California, I missed everything Southern. So I started looking around and I found out I could join the SCV. There's a lot of Southern people there. I joined the headquarters camp because there was not a camp near me. The nearest one was 120 miles away in Los Angeles. So I started gathering up people to form my own camp. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened in the middle of that, and I got sent overseas for 2 years. But as soon as I got back in late 03, I started it again. In January of 04, we had our first meeting with 11 members in Central California. That's what got me going. And that first year, I went ahead and became a life member. And I'm proud to say that my camp that I started in Bakersfield area of California now, last account I had, they had like 40 members and were very active. I hosted the California Division reunion. So that's a little bit more about me and how I got started in the SCV. But I kept going. It was only a couple of years later, we had our big kerfluffle within the SCV, and myself and I got several other guys. There were 7 of us, last minute flight out to Concord for the special convention. And we helped do our thing to save the SCV. And one of my other favorite things, sad but favorite things, any Confederate veteran funeral, I would go to them. I went to the Hunley funeral. I went to AP Hills. Of course, I went to Forest's. And I even went to, some people don't even remember it, but the CSS Alabama sailor that was recovered. I went to his down in Mobile. So those things are important to me. No matter where I'm at, I'll travel to go to events like that. And over these years, I've met and become friends with people from all over the country. And I'll add too one thing. I know that Lieutenant Commander Kennedy is running for the national commander spot. I do get along with him very well because back in 2006, my brand new couple-year-old camp hosted the California Division reunion. We changed it from just a meeting day. My camp sponsored. We made it more like a national reunion. We had a Friday night gathering in which we went to the Buck Owens Crystal Palace and listened to Buck Owens sing. And I had invited Donnie Kennedy to come out and speak at the reunion. And he got to go in with us, sat with me, and we listened to Buck Owens sing Dixie. And his is something like Grand Ole Opry, but it was broadcast throughout 2 big radio stations in California. Probably the last time Dixie's ever been heard on the radio in California. And he dedicated it to us. And it went on from there. We had a big, full, national type 2-day reunion. And I interacted with Donnie a lot, and we have been really great friends ever since. So I know I can work with him.
I was about to say you just made Carl very jealous with that one. I got another question. It's not related to not exactly related to your candidacy, but about you being in North Carolina. How do you put up with Frank Powell? Does he always take his shirt off?
He's a
or is
good
that just
friend.
something he saves for oratory?
And he is one of the greatest sources of information, Southern and SCV, that I know. I frequently go to him with questions.
Oh, I do too. And if Frank's rewatching this, we love you here, Frank. You should know that by now. I had to ask him a question the other day about the proper procedure for constitutional amendments. The Kennedy twins are talking about your oratory things that you're competing in the oratory every year, and I just got to thinking about Frank and the Brother Frank rule.
Yes. Well, of the oratory, I guess I also have the claim of probably being the only councilman to ever have done an extensive, long space mission.
True. Also, I was going to say an extensive, long speech. No, I've heard a couple of those. I've heard a couple oratory speeches that should have been a lot shorter than what they were. Mine included. Adam does want to know: did you attend the funeral of Simeon Cummins in '94 at headquarters?
I did not. I did not join until 2000.
And you would think Adam, who controls the database and Salesforce, would know that.
If I had been in, I would have attended, but no.
Just trying to use trying to find some other questions just because we're at 7:38 and I don't want to rob you of any time.
Good.
Oh, I had a good one. I'm trying to scroll back on my phone and find it. Technology is a great thing, but also it's a curse. Okay. Do you believe that there are any changes or reforms necessary for the organization to grow? And if so, what would they be?
As far as major changes, no, but we do need to streamline things that would more appeal to the younger generations. I'll say that for sure. Get our communications out there. Do more publications if we can. We have our hands tied in a lot of ways, but we have to keep plugging away and working at it. And eventually, I think the tide's already changing a little, but eventually I think it will turn back the other way. So that's the best answer I can give you on that one.
Yeah. Excuse me. I got a little bit of the hiccups. All right. Here we go. So, Chief Kennedy asked, or Lieutenant Commander Chief Kennedy rather asked, do you have any ideas about getting divisions to keep their websites and social medias up to date? We all need help here, and that's the truth.
Well, other than just keep reminding, offer to help them as best we can. Possibly even as far as a website, it's going to have to be them to make the entries on the website. So it's got to be on them. We can offer to help. We can push them along. Social media. I know there's still camps out there that Commander doesn't even have internet. A few, but we just need to push it. I know we need to start, honestly, at the top. Even the national website needs a little tweaking. And I know the division websites, even ANV, I go to some division websites and the last entry was made 4 years ago. So we need to reach out to each division, and I will do that if I'm commander.
Yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of I didn't fully realize just how much communication is needed, or not needed, but how much of the job is communicating. Until I was talking to Forrest the other day, and to equate the Army, there's the SCV is in multiple levels. At the bottom, or actually at the top, it's a top-down structure. But if you imagine it as a pyramid, it's the camps, the brigades, the divisions, the armies, the national. But if you were to take the division and compare it to the national level, there's your national GEC, and then there's your division DEC. But your divisions are broken up into brigades to help communicate the decisions down. But the armies serve that just for a national level. To get down, to get that down and everything like that. So, Chief, I'm not going to talk about the national website. How it does need some overhaul. Georgia does have a pretty good website. I don't like the fact that I can't find their constitution on there. As a chairman of the Constitution Committee who's doing a constitutional changes this year, it's good to borrow from other Florida's. I was able to find it, but borrow from other divisions and see what works and what doesn't work. Really quickly, I'm trying to. Well, I've actually got that list of questions on the computer. So if you'll give me a second, and let me find it.
Okay. While you're talking, I'll go ahead and mention that I am as you've heard me talk about my career, law enforcement, even in military, I was a law enforcement person. I'm a straight, go by the Constitution. I know the SCV Constitution. I know bylaws by heart. I know my division's Constitution and bylaws. And straight up go by them. If you don't get around anything, and I'm a black and white. It's either right or it's not right. And I'm not afraid to call people if it's not right.
Oh, I know that. Some firsthand experience on that from a couple years ago.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And I got to tell you about some changes that have happened in Mississippi since then. So the question that I was looking for, I couldn't remember how we had put it out in our other list of questions for the other project we're working on. One thing about us, and we talked about the charge and how important it is for our organization, but the thing that ties us all together is the fact that we all have a Confederate ancestor. So this is a personal one for you, Kenny. How has being a member of the SCV helped your understanding of your own family's history and heritage?
Well, like I said, I knew about it more vaguely. I knew various ancestors were Confederate soldiers because they're buried in our cemetery right here. And a couple of them had CSA on their headstones. Some didn't, but I knew from my grandparents, from everybody else, we all lived in the same general area. But since then, I have subscribed to virtually every ancestry or records site. And I have taken my family back into the 1100s. So it's helped me all the way around. But I've also been astonished. Yes, I knew my great-great-grandfather was at Fort Fisher, but I did not know that he was captured and sent up to Point Lookout. I did not know that his brother was manning the big gun over in the middle of Fort Fisher and was severely wounded in the back and was put in a prison hospital and then paroled because he was injured. Stuff like that it's made me closer to them, more personalized. And for the last few years, when I'm doing nothing else, I sit and research and learn all I can about these ancestors and other members of their families. I can tell you everybody in between and all their kids and everything else now. We do have on my grandmother's side, many years ago, they published a book on the family, just a normal, family history that was maybe, like that thick. I have printed things and added to it photos, headstone pictures, a little bit of everything else. And I got quite a few Confederates in there. But now the book is almost breaking the binding on it because it's about 3 times as thick with all the extra papers. So yes, SCV has really piqued my interest in my Confederate ancestors. And so much, in fact, that I have probably going to be buried next to a couple of them.
That is cool.
And it is
Um,
in my will that even if she has to go commercial, I want a military headstone, Confederate style.
oh, that is cool. Um, that is cool. So we're at 47 minutes
Mhm.
in. Gonna go ahead and let you wrap up with any last few thoughts that you have, Kenny. And then just gonna remind everybody to tune in Monday and stuff like that. And that we will be the week of National Reunion. All the interviews that we have done leading up to, we will start on Monday. We'll do replays on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and start our live broadcast on Wednesday at National Reunion. So, I said, any last thoughts or anything you want to say to the folks out in chat land?
Well, I can say that my entire time, no matter what position I was in, um, I was always, I strive to just be open, approachable, put my contact out there. And if somebody calls me or sends me a message, I try my best to follow up on it as soon as I possibly can. Even during my term as doing investigations and stuff, I was fielding calls left and right, and I don't think anybody other than maybe a few uh, were disappointed in my performances there. And right now, the way all the national stuff is going against us, um, and the attacks on everything, taking down monuments, talking about digging up our dead folk, actually doing it in a few cases. Um, we need to stay on board, stay ready for the legal fight, pick our battles. And I've been doing it now for a while, and I want to continue doing it. And I want to follow up and finish some of the things that I've already been working on a lot. And again, it hasn't been brought up but once, maybe, but on the museum, I'm a firm supporter of the museum. I donated all of my original firearms to the museum, as long as I think about as well as about 40 books of my antique uh, 19th century books about the Confederacy or the Civil War, because they're in a better place. If I had them, it's just me looking at them. Up there, anybody can enjoy them. And I know that it's going to be paid off soon. I don't know how many people out there in Chatland know, but back at our last reunion in July of last year until now, we've paid off more than half of what it was already in just those months. And we've got another year and a half, and we still have the money coming in, and it will definitely be paid off. We got to be diligent with it, but it's going to be paid off. And I want to be there when it is. So if anybody's got any questions, my number is on the national website. Give me a call.
Yeah, and I think, regardless of how the election comes out, Ron is right, or Chief Kennedy is right. Thank you for your dedication to your cause, the service to this nation, as well as to your community. Um, with being law enforcement, everything like that. I want to personally thank you for your friendship. I think the first time we met and really got to know each other was we'd met before, but really got to talking and knowing each other was the reunion in Mobile, which was a very special reunion to me. That was my dad's last national reunion he got to go to. It was my first national reunion as a division commander. That was a very good reunion. Um, so yeah. Anyway, guys, again, Monday, remember we'll have another great episode of chat, I'm sure. Uh, again, Moose is sorry that he could not be on, and we'll give him crap Monday. Kenny, again, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your candidacy. Especially if you're in the Army of Northern Virginia, share this episode out. If you're not, share this episode out. We'll have more interviews with other candidates in the future. And until then, in the words of the late and great Harold Philpotts, no Fumar in the elevator.
Okay. Thank you, Connor.